Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. Bob Pompeani with you at 412-575-2600. Chris Mueller will be along shortly up at 93.7 The Fan, and we always take your calls. Once again, 575-2600. You can also hit us up on X or Twitter. It's at KDPomp, at Chris Mueller PGH, and this is one of the questions we got tonight in that tweet mailbox. It's BR Diz, who says, when Jared Jones returns, how do they handle the starting pitching situation? As we welcome in Chris Mueller. Not a good night tonight for Mitch Keller. It started that way. He had 4 perfect innings, actually hitless innings. Then the 5th, everything changed as he was grooving pitches. And Mickey Moniak is a maniac in this series. He ended up that no-hitter last night for Skenes, and he had 5 runs batted in tonight. But the question here that the tweeter asks is about what happens when Jones comes back. Clearly, he wants to start. We made that pretty clear last night. And that's fine. That's what he probably should do. I think they would have more control of how they, watch his pitch count and stuff like that. But somebody has to go out of that rotation, or do they explore a 6-man rotation at some point?
You can do a 6-man rotation and not skip Paul Skenes' starts and just tell other guys they're going to have to pitch with a skip start or do something different to their routine so you don't mess up Skenes' routine, and Keller's start aside, you don't mess up his routine. But I still think that in a perfect world for them, they would see Bubba Chandler really rise up in these next couple of starts and deliver the goods instead of be the guy that's led the league in walks so far this year, so that they could free up Carmen Mlodzinski to go back to the bullpen, because I know Mlodzinski doesn't want to be a bullpen arm, but that seems like where he's the best version of himself. That's where he's the biggest weapon for them. Jones, by the way, just as an aside, Bob, I thought the way he handled those questions he was asked, which were completely fair questions, by the way, about being a starter or being a bullpen guy or whatever, I did not think he handled that too well. And then this notion that the Pirates, or I don't even know if it was the Pirates, that Jones asked that he not be asked about being a starting pitcher or his role or whatever, I think is hogwash. Just for the record, it's absurd. He's going to get asked about it. It's relevant. You can answer those questions without coming off the way he did, which I thought was, frankly, kind of unprofessional. Yeah,
I would agree with that, but there's a part of me that likes his confidence. He's a pretty confident guy, and when he was here in 2024 before his injury, he struck me that way anyway, and I think you got to have an opportunity to express that when you're on the mound. I think those who do it well. In that setting, you're right. He should not have said. There's a way to answer that question. But again, I don't know what the ground rules were, if any. Well, I saw that tweet by Greg.
I don't think there were any.
Well,
Greg Brown suggested
that
this was said. Yeah, but then one of the reporters involved said that was never conveyed to anybody in that locker room, and I tend to believe that the reporter has no reason to be lying there. That if they had really been asked, don't bring this up, that they, I guess, would have adhered to that, even though I still think that would be ridiculous. But I saw what Greg Brown tweeted, and also that got refuted. So it's he said. Either way, I think in a perfect world, the Pirates would want Carmen Mlodzinski to end up being the quote-unquote odd man out, like the unlucky short straw guy, and end up going to the bullpen. But the way it's trending right now, I guess that's the real story, Bob, is that Bubba Chandler, by rights and by who deserves what, would be the guy you'd send to the bullpen. But they've never looked at him as anything but a frontline starter. He just hasn't pitched like one yet.
Yeah, he just needs to figure it out, and it seems like he's aiming like golfers do when they get into a rut. You're trying to aim instead of swing, and I think he's not thinking about anything but not walking guys. And when you do that as a starter, that's not a good thing to do. But he needs to, if he should realize his potential on this staff, add Jones in there with what they have. It's a pretty good staff. I want to ask you about Skenes last night and just what he continues to do. We had a conversation today on Midday Show with Joe about MVP of the league. Now, 21 pitchers have done that before. Not a lot recently. Ohtani is a guy who's been MVP, but he's 2 players in one. Do you think Paul Skenes, if this continues, if, let's say, they win a division, if they do everything and he comes away with 22 wins or something crazy like that with a sub-1.80 ERA, can he win MVP? Should he win MVP?
Can he? Yes. Should he? I mean, probably yes in that situation until you ask me, well, what has Shohei Ohtani done in the same time frame? Because everybody in the NL right now is living in a very unfortunate world, which is if Shohei Ohtani pitches and pitches like a fringe #1 starter. Let's just say he pitches like a very good #2 starter and hits like the best middle of the lineup bat on the best team in baseball. Sorry, like by definition, that makes him the MVP of the NL. And if you were giving a major leagues wide award, you'd make him the MVP of baseball. Like I know that sucks, and people probably want to say, he can't win it every year, but
yes, he
kind of can.
Yes, he can.
He can, and he probably should. If, like I said, if you're adding 4 wins above replacement as a pitcher, or 5 wins above replacement as a pitcher, which is what he'd probably be if you were kind of gaming it out here, and 5 or 6 more wins as a hitter, and he's an 11-win player, sorry, that's your MVP every single time. You'd have to have either an individual hitter, have like a Barry Bonds in 2001 or 02 or 03 or 04 season, or like a Pedro Martinez from 1999, I think it was, or 2000, when he was 2 runs better than the rest of the league, to even consider somebody else.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked a lot about comparisons with Skenes. Doc Gooden came to mind. Fernando Valenzuela early in his career came to mind. Interesting WAR numbers. We'll get into that. We'll take your calls. And we have much more on the Steelers. Tomorrow we'll know a schedule release. Some of this stuff's already kind of slipped out, and we'll talk about some of those games that we do know of and what we might expect of that schedule. Coming up as we continue right here live, it's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, KDKA Plus, and most nights 93.7 The Fan. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night from ESPN Insights. Devon Achan's 5.62 career yards per rush is the highest by any running back in NFL history, minimum 500 rushes. Despite missing a game last year, how about he accounted for 34% of the Dolphins' scrimmage yards, which is why he got a 4-year, $68 million deal today from Miami. They don't have much right now down there in Miami, Chris, but they have him. They're going to need a lot more than him, but that's a special player right there.
I believe the meme I saw posted today when that contract news dropped that seemed appropriate was the one where you see in like a kind of janky looking trailer park, there's a little carport, and then there's like a $200,000 sports car park there. That seems kind of like Achan on that roster, although with Malik Willis there, I think they could be interesting. I mean, he's a super explosive player. He's pretty unique, I think, as a runner, just in the way he's able to exploit gaps, but I'm happy anytime a guy like that who's obviously produced gets paid. I just kind of wonder if the guy's going to have only the money to fall back on and not really a competitive team to play for, because the Dolphins look pretty bad and probably by design for the next year or two.
Tomorrow is the NFL schedule release. We've already had some leaks. One of them is the opener, and the Pirates are out of town, so for one of the few times that we've seen in recent time, they're going to get a home opener, it looks like, against Atlanta in that game. There's also one. And again, this is a lot of different people out there tweeting this, so I assume there's a responsibility factor here that on the day after Thanksgiving, on Black Friday, you're going to have a Steeler game at home. I believe it is against Denver at 3 in the afternoon. Do you like these setups, not to mention the potential that they're going to be on Christmas Day, which is also a Friday?
Bob, do you like to see the Twitter handle Aussie NFL get retweeted a million times into your feed, and a guy like nerding on NFL? Those people DM people like me, Donnie, and Pony trying to crowdsource info. That is how some of the schedule sausage gets made. Home opener will be nice. I think it's always nice to get one extra game in good weather, presumably for your fans. The Black Friday game, I think, is, I don't know, that's a weird one to me. I will be presumably on the air during that game, so I don't know, that'll be a bit of a strange one. I might just take the day off that day. I don't know. The other one, Bob, that I think we have to talk about here, I have to give credit to, I want to say, the Steelers and that on Twitter. What's it going to be like when these fans travel to Paris for Steelers Saints and they say, I'm from a town called North Versailles to somebody, to a Parisian? Versailles. No. You want to see the Palace of Versailles? No. I'm from North Versailles. Versailles. Yeah, it's out Route 30.
Well, one thing they're going to find out, if Pittsburghers have their way, there are going to be a lot of French fries on just about everything they eat, including dessert. So we'll see what they do. But that's an interesting setup. It's apparently it was not going to be the Steelers originally. It was going to be Green Bay, but they didn't want that.
Yep.
They want to reserve that for a home game down the Superdome. Although the Steelers have never really played their best football down there, so maybe this is a break for them. And I would imagine that the fans are going to make their way over there, so it won't feel like probably a New Orleans home game.
No. It'll feel like almost every one of those games does, with very few exceptions, which is a neutral site game where like half the fans are just wearing a random NFL jersey. It'd be like when you have Manchester City or Man United and Liverpool come over with their backups, and everyone's just wearing random soccer jerseys at Heinz Field or at Exeter Stadium, in the crowd because they just like soccer. I actually think, Bob, I'm sure you've been down to the Superdome for Saints Steelers games and seen them there. That is a rabid fan base, the Saints fan base. That is a crazed, very loyal. Like, I was very impressed by just the sheer number of Saints jerseys I saw on a Saints home Sunday walking around down there several years back. I think that's a bonus for the Steelers. I think it makes it an easier game to win with crowd conditions. And I guess they're lucky that the Saints view themselves as an on-the-rise team, because the report was that it was the Packers, like you said, and that the Saints didn't want a fellow NFC contender to get to play them on a neutral field. I thought that was very rich, given what the Saints are expected to be this year.
Back to the phone lines. We're going to start this segment with Harry in Westview, our caller tonight. Hey, Harry, how are you?
Excellent. How are you guys tonight?
Good. What's going on?
Oh, I remember those Saints fans when they all had bags on their heads. But and then I hope we don't poorly play in Francais. Anyway, my comment was on Jared Jones. I politely disagree with you there, Ballsy. I like his competitiveness. You know what I mean? I just think that Skenes is kind of the same way, a little mildly tempered. I don't think he wants to enter as reporter because he was a starter before. He wants to be a starter again. When he got hurt, he was rising up the ladder there, and he was on the same level
Harry,
as Skenes.
Harry, I understand. Like, we like the guy's competitiveness on the mound. I do, but I think it's a pretty normal, relevant question when the guy's coming off major arm surgery and everybody knows he's got the stuff where he might be very useful in like a 1, 2, or even a 3-inning roll out of the bullpen, and it hasn't been like firmly delineated that that's what it's going to be. Like, the Pirates have hinted that that's what they intend him to be, and he says that's what he wants to be as a starter. I think it's a real question, and if there was this idea that they tried to muzzle questions about that beforehand, that's a bad look. If they tried to, after the fact, get the word out and suggest that they did that when they didn't actually do that, or when no reporter was aware of that, that's a worse look. I don't like the optics, but the bottom line is, and what's really relevant here, is that if they get him back and he's the Jared Jones that started his major league career, it will be a massive boost to what should still be an already pretty good, very good actually, starting rotation.
Absolutely. Compliment him with Ashcraft, and if Chandler does what we think he can do, those are 4 pretty good guys. That doesn't even bring into a Keller into the equation. And he's, even with tonight's performance, his ERA is up to 3.59. Let's go to Jerry and Butler. Jerry, go right ahead. You're on. Jerry?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're on, man.
With questioning about the Pirates, it seems like when the competition's bad, they play to that competition. When the competition's good, they show up. I don't understand it.
Well,
I think they should be easily winning 2 or 3.
Colorado's a little better than they were last year when they were just terrible and doormats. They got some good young players there. And listen, if you don't make the right pitches at some of these innings where you have guys on base and good hitters, they're going to make you pay. He just didn't do that. I think the Pirates have one of the best records against teams that are over 500 right now, at least some of the wins. So, in fact, the National League Central has 3 of the top 4 numbers in that department. So it's a pretty good division right now. We'll see where it goes. It would be a shame if they don't get into this playoffs because of this division or because of how things are going. Not too long ago, a team like Arizona did not make it with 89 wins. They're on pace for 88, I think, or 87. It may not be good enough this year. And if you're not, boy, you're missing a great opportunity, because I don't know about you, Chris, but if they do get in, you can see them doing some pretty good damage in a short series. You don't have to play 10 games. You play 5, 7. You can handle that with that pitching staff.
I mean, they could be lethal in a 3-game wild card series. You get them a 5-game series where a team's got to beat them probably in 4, or they're going to see Skenes twice. They would be dangerous. I mean, if you get to go and throw Skenes out there 3 times in a 7-gamer, hypothetically, against even a team as mighty as the Dodgers, I would think as a Pirates fan, you probably feel pretty darn good about your chances in that series because you're throwing the best pitcher in baseball at a team like that. I will say this. I think the caller has a point. Like that, the Rockies are a little better, but they're still the Rockies. That Giants series was pretty frustrating, and the one thing this team hasn't been able to do since very early in the season, is really put together a winning streak of any substance. I know that they had the sweep coming off the Cardinals and everything else, and they kind of righted their ship, but they need to get 5, 6, 7 in a row at 1 or 2 points in this season to give the kind of breathing room in the standings that I think you're describing that they're going to need.
Yeah, like the Cubs have had 2 10-game win streaks, and they've had problems with their starting rotation, but you know, they're going to be looking for help there. We'll see what they do, but that's what you're right. They need to go on one of those lengthy runs where they can put some space between themselves and anyone else in that division. We're due for a break. We'll take it, come back with more right here on KDKA+. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Welcome back. A little note of interest. If you like power building, if you like strongman competitions, this weekend at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, they got that competition going on. Jimmy Mannion, who was once Mr. Pittsburgh and one of the best in the country at doing this. I don't know, Chris, have you ever been to one of these? It's very interesting to see the amount of people who show up to watch. Some of these guys lift ridiculous amounts of weight, and some of them are very young, you know, teenagers who can do it. Have you ever been to one of these?
I have not, but the appeal is pretty obvious. Hey, look at that bar bending under the sheer weight of everything that's been put on it. All right, now watch this dude actually lift it correctly. If anybody's ever gotten like on a bench press or anything and tried to lift, I don't know, like 150 pounds, right? Pretty modest amount of weight. And then you see somebody lift like 6 times, whatever the record is, right? Like lift 600 more than that. Yes, that is cool.
It's really interesting.
It's a very specific skill unto itself. But it is very, like James Harrison does crazy stuff with that kind of weight. These guys are far more wild with what they're able to do, as crazy as that sounds.
This weekend, May 16, 17, David L. Lawrence Convention Center. Real quick, tomorrow's the PGA Championship. I've changed my... Pony hit me up last night real quick, last part of the show, and I didn't have time to think about it, but now I have. I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth to win the career Grand Slam. It's one he hasn't had. I think he may do it. Who do you like?
Cam Young. If not, Kurt Kitayama. How about them apples, Bob?
Giddy up, Kitayama. That's right. He's been playing. There's so many good choices, but I'm hoping that Spieth can do it. It's been a long time.
Everyone wants Spieth to do it. I mean, I just don't think he can. I think Cam Young's the best player, not named Scotty Scheffler right now, and I think he'll actually get it done this week.
He did fall apart a little bit last week, but he's been playing extremely well. That's going to do it. Chris Mueller, thank you very much. I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a good night. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 10:35.